He was my secret, she was my temptation. The first time I saw her, I knew trouble had entered my life disguised as beauty. She wasn't supposed to matter to me. She wasn't supposed to be more than a fleeting glance across a crowded room, a momentary distraction that would fade as quickly as it arrived. But something about her, the way her eyes seemed to hold 1,000 unsaid words, the way her lips curved when she tried not to smile, it was enough to shatter every rule I had lived by. She became my secret, and I became hers. It all started at a charity gala in downtown Boston. The room shimmered with champagne glasses and laughter, but my attention was anchored to the woman in the deep emerald dress standing near the balcony. She was radiant, not because of the dress, not even because of her beauty, but because she carried herself like she belonged nowhere and everywhere all at once. I shouldn't have walked up to her. I shouldn't have leaned against the marble railing and said, "You look like you're searching for an escape." She glanced at me, amused, her eyes catching the golden lights of the chandeliers. "And you look like the kind of man who offers one." That single exchange was the beginning of everything. Her name was Elise. She wasn't mine to fall for, and I wasn't hers. She belonged to another world, a world that demanded perfection, appearances, and rules. But the more we tried to resist, the deeper we sank. At first, it was harmless. Coffee meetings that just happened. Walks along the Charles River where our conversations stretched long after the sun disappeared. Every time she laughed, something inside me softened. Every time she brushed her hair behind her ear, I caught myself staring longer than I should. She was temptation in its purest form, not loud, not demanding, but quietly irresistible. One evening, rain painted the city streets silver. We had met at a small jazz bar, one hidden away from the world. The dim lights flickered, the music was low, and the world outside disappeared. Elise leaned closer, her voice barely louder than the saxophone in the background. "Do you ever wonder what people would say, if they knew?" I swallowed hard, her perfume wrapping around me like a promise I shouldn't make. "They'd say too much. They'd ruin it." "And yet," she whispered, her fingers brushing mine, "here we are." Her touch was electricity. That night, I walked her to her car, and just as she opened the door, she hesitated. The rain clung to her lashes, her lips parted slightly, and I couldn't stop myself. I kissed her. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't desperate, it was slow, tender, the kind of kiss that tells you you've crossed a line you'll never come back from. From that night forward, there was no pretending. We became each other's secret. Stolen hours in quiet corners of the city, long drives to nowhere, whispered confessions in hotel rooms where the world couldn't find us. With her, I wasn't the man the world saw. I wasn't the one making decisions, carrying weight, or keeping face. With her, I was just a man hopelessly, dangerously in love. But secrets carry shadows, and temptation never stays hidden for long. The danger wasn't someone finding out, it was the way we couldn't stop. The way her hand always seemed to find mine, even in a crowd. The way my eyes always searched for hers first. People began to notice the glances, the unspoken connection. One night, as we sat in her apartment, the city lights stretching endlessly outside her window, I told her, "This can't last forever." Her eyes shimmered, and she pressed her forehead against mine. "I know. But I don't care." "Do you?" "No," I admitted, pulling her into my arms. "Not anymore." And so, we stopped pretending. We spent weekends away, far from the eyes of the city. We explored small coastal towns where no one knew our names. I watched her barefoot on the sand, her hair dancing in the wind, her laughter echoing across the shore. Those were the moments I wanted to freeze forever, the moments where temptation no longer felt like sin but like salvation. One evening in particular stays with me. We were in a cabin tucked away in Vermont, snow falling outside, a fire crackling in the hearth. Elise sat curled in a blanket, her cheeks flushed from the heat. She looked at me with those eyes, and for the first time, there was no fear in them. "Do you ever think," she asked softly, "that maybe this was always meant to happen? That maybe we found each other because we were supposed to?" I took her hand, kissed her knuckles, and whispered, "If loving you is wrong, then I never want to be right." She smiled, leaning into me, and for the first time, the word forever didn't feel impossible. But reality has a way of creeping in. One evening, Elisa's phone buzzed endlessly. She silenced it, but I could see the conflict in her eyes. Her world outside of us was demanding her back. I felt a weight in my chest I couldn't ignore. "Elise," I said, "are you afraid of what comes next?" She looked at me, her voice trembling. "I'm not afraid of what people will say. I'm afraid of losing this. Losing us." I pulled her into my arms, my lips brushing her temple. "You won't. Not if we choose it. Not if we fight for it." And fight we did. It wasn't easy. There were whispers, suspicions, difficult choices. But love, real love, doesn't bow to fear. We decided that what we had was worth every risk. We stopped hiding, stopped running, and faced the world hand in hand. Some people judged. Some turned away. But many, surprisingly, understood. Elise once told me, as we walked along the same river where it all began, the hardest part wasn't falling for you. It was realizing I never had a choice. You were always going to be mine. I kissed her then, right there in the open, no more secrets, no more stolen moments. Just us. And in that kiss, I felt everything, the pain of waiting, the sweetness of surrender, the boldness of temptation, and the peace of finally choosing love over fear. She had been my secret. She had been my temptation. And in the end, she became my forever.